Hello, my name is Laura and I am ADHDAF. I am joined by an old school friend of the podcast, a very good friend of mine, Nicole Nadler, who is visiting me for my birthday, which was 2 days ago. Now, Nicole is very much of the too much camp of ADHD. Yes. We are all different. ADHD presents differently in every single individual, but some of us talk at the speed of light. And
we're two of those.
And we're two of those in amongst celebrating. We have talked a lot. When Nicole and I are together, we barely come up for air. And some of it has been absolute gold. And I just suddenly thought, we should be recording this.
Yeah.
So that's what this is. So Nicole was interviewed back in 2023 on the podcast in episode...
2022 it was. The very beginning.
Yeah. 2022.
Episode 17, I think.
Okay. And
Early
then
days.
again last year in August, or leading up to August, with Why is Nicole Nadler Still Like This?
Yes,
a
follow-up. And then I've been on
some
other
cameos.
bits and bobs.
And if you've ever seen a live ADHDAF podcast show, Nicole Nadler will have been there.
Yes. And if you hear an American voice, 80% of the time it is mine. Not always, but often.
If you came to the ADHDAF Emporium tent at Flaxstock Festival, she also looks slightly and sounds slightly like Optimistic Meg.
But with like a very thick New York accent.
Which you absolutely do not have now. So Nicole... Nicole had this idea. Let's set this up. We'll be totes profesh. We'll record it. We've got a phone set up on one side of us. We're speaking over Zoom. And of course, we're not totes profesh. We sat down. We don't know what camera to look at. Whose idea was this? We have a lot of ideas. Not all of them are good, but we do hope that you enjoy what will likely be a very chaotic ramble. Please do have a read of the description of the show notes before diving in, because this episode comes with a trigger warning, probably several. It is all off the cuff. It is not scripted. There will be swearing. And I'm already anticipating we are definitely going to be discussing a little bit about grief and bereavement. So if you are not in a place to hear any of the topics listed in the show notes, come back to it at a time when you do have the capacity. Now, capacity is one of the things that we are going to be talking about. And ADHD, obviously, relationships, expectations, and self-loathing.
We didn't even practice that.
Oh, I know. Shall I just start rambling and see what comes out?
As if there was ever going to be another one.
So today, I am actually feeling very self-loathing-y. And that is because it's been my birthday, as I said 2 days ago. Thank you for all of the lovely messages, and thank you to the Leopard Print Army for the amazing card and gift. It's been really lovely. But I have been absolutely dreading my birthday because it is my first birthday without my mum. She passed away coming up for 4 months ago now. And actually, it started to get really, really tough a couple of weeks ago. And I know that grief isn't linear, or I read somewhere that around about the 3-month mark, it gets hard again because all of the kind of dust has settled and you're actually coming to terms with the reality again.
And you're living everyday real life.
Yeah, and it won't be the same for everybody, but I definitely noticed it all intensified again around about that point. And again, also anniversaries, the first of things, are meant to intensify the grief. So I just want anyone to know who's listening, if you are grieving, you are not alone. And ADHD and the symptoms of grief can overlap and also exacerbate each other. So we really are in the thick of it. I really am more ADHDAF than I've ever been in my life. I've also just moved into a new place. So there's a really strange transitional time right now. And it's a lot. Anyway, that wasn't what I was going to tell you. You can listen to the episode ADHD and Grief, which is in honour of my mum, which I recorded when she first passed away, should you wish to. The point I'm trying to make is that I wasn't looking forward to my birthday. I felt really, really griefy in the days leading up to it. Decided the best thing to do was to make plans. So I made very concise plans. Decided on daytime rather than nighttime, and it was a bit like a military operation. It ran pretty seamlessly. We had a really good time. And I was home by like 7 p.m. And that is my grief hack to anybody who is grieving and has a birthday, is make very concise plans, stick to them, call it a night. And I did well. Yesterday we went out and about, and today I feel very undeserving of all of the lovely things that I've had, and I feel guilty and like I should have worked harder and I shouldn't have been celebrating, and everybody's going to think that I've been celebrating and not honouring my mum's honour. And I'm obviously absolutely fine now, so everyone can chuck everything at me that they normally chuck at me when actually I don't have full capacity and all of that bullshit. Basically,
I think in you saying I have not experienced any of the grief you've experienced in your whole life at any level, but I think that celebrating in the face of grief is really almost like an act of defiance against what you want to tell yourself.
Yeah.
Because all the things that you just said, why you feel like that objectively makes a lot of sense to me. But I don't know. I didn't know your mom, but I can't imagine that she would have not wanted you to have a happy birthday.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
So like pushing yourself to enjoy your life and your friends and this moment and not focusing on other things is like almost like an act of rebellion of like, this is the grief that I feel and it is all consuming and will be all consuming. Not today, motherfucker.
And I think, I think also it's quite funny because birthdays, again, coming back to the point, one of the many points of what will be a ridiculous ramble of an episode, one of the many points is about expectations. And that's something that I feel very heavily is like, I should have rung more people. Have I got back to everybody? Have I thanked every single Facebook message? I
can attest that I was with Laura and she is on the only people I talked to my grandma and my 5-year-old niece. Other than that, I'm like, you can hear from me later. And I was like, thank you so much for such a lovely, on it. If she missed your message, it was by ADHD. She was on it. There's no way. Yeah.
But so that was that. So that's how I feel in the self-loathing stakes. It's very boring. It's not very fun to think that you have to absolutely earn any right whatsoever to any kind of joy. It's not fun. But self-flagellation seems to be one of my skills. That's my superpower. I have that.
Yeah, birthdays are a really, really tough one. I grew up in a birthday house. And by a birthday house, I mean like my mom made my birthday a big deal.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily like a fan, but it was like balloons and a cake. And she would like, it just, you were made to feel special.
When you do the cake reveal. Like you've never had a cake in your life.
She just, I don't know. I can't even, it wasn't like it was big fancy birthdays all the time, but it was just always a big deal.
Yeah.
So I think birthdays are a big deal. I have friends who are also, like you either are or are not a birthday person.
Yeah.
I have really struggled in moving abroad. I don't have that birthday love. And because I'm a birthday person, it really, and we're going to talk about perception, it really freaks me out. My first 5 birthdays here, I didn't really have anything. I would go to dinner with my husband or something, and not to say that's not enough, but but
it's not what you used to. Yeah,
I was like, sorry, do you have any idea? I did it. I stayed here another year, I'm alive.
I survived.
Yes, I am consistently shocked that I've made it this far. In like, I can't believe I didn't fall down a flight of stairs way. What I've found is that when you have this need, it was such a need of like, can you please love and validate my existence? Nothing was enough for me.
Yeah.
And I always felt worse. 2020, I started making friends. So I'd only been in the UK for 2 years. I didn't have any friends. And the idea of not even having people to invite freaked me out.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll go home for my birthday. And I invited all these people and they all came and I was really unhappy. Like nothing was enough because I was like, oh, but this one person didn't come.
Yeah.
And then, so I have this problem with perception and it's been there for a long time, but I've only really recently understood it. So when it comes to something like a birthday, and this happens a lot, if I do all this stuff and I invite all these people and people come and they love me and they bring me presents or cards or all the things that you would do. But then like somebody's like, can't wait to see you. And then they just like, don't turn up, which is objectively really rude, of course. But
life happens, obviously.
Yeah, but I have a big RSVP issue. Anyway, that's not the point. That's on me. But what I'm saying is this person, they were not, whatever. They made their call. They didn't turn up. They didn't RSVP, whatever it is. My first thought, and that becomes an obsessive thought, is they're the only person that was honest with me and nobody else wants to be here. And this is a recurring theme in my life, but I'm looking back. So like birthdays were a big thing for that, but never until I moved abroad. I don't remember having if I did have that way in America, I don't remember it anymore. So it was like, they're the only one who's honest with me and nobody else wanted to be here. They just felt bad, which is completely a lie. And so that is a big birthday spiral for me. I've had 2 birthday parties here. Both years, people were like, yep, can't wait, see you soon. And they just did not come. And it ruined me for like weeks after that. I like didn't want to leave my house. I was so embarrassed. So it's this concept of what it means. And the perception is they're shitty. I don't know. They didn't, yeah.
But the thing that I've been desperately, I like literally crossing my fingers and toes to try and remember to say, is that the stories that we tell ourselves, the internal narrative that we have that has been shaped by a life of unidentified ADHD, that is what we know to be true before we found out the rest of the information. So what that means is inside of us, we are carrying this narrative, and our brains, as left of field as they can be, they're also very clever. They want to keep us safe, and they back up the narrative to make us right, to keep us safe. So one of the things that I think is really interesting, it was a conversation that I had with somebody in the Discord server of the Patreon community of this podcast, was they were talking about the fact that their friends had forgotten to wish them a happy birthday on the WhatsApp group. And she was just like, I'm just so upset, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I totally get it. I totally understand. Can I just play devil's advocate for a minute? Because I just have to advocate for all the people that cannot remember dates. Because I cannot tell you now the date of my dad's birthday. I know it's in September. I don't know if it's the 7th, 9th, 17th, 19th. It could even be the 15th or the 13th. I do not know. I cannot keep that piece of information in my brain. I don't know why. Partly to do with dyscalculia. I'm bad with numbers. I know it's September. I cannot remember the date.
Just gotta send him a card September 1st.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
Every year.
Yeah. So
happy birthday, Mom.
So all of these people forgot. So I'd say, okay, let's think for a second that all of these people forgot. Now, what I do is I will give people loads and loads of notice and warning and forewarning and the day before, and I make the plans and I do all of this stuff to kind of give people enough of a reminder that it's happening. Now, some people, and this, I'm not saying this is intentional, I would say it's our brains trying to be clever to keep us safe and look for this narrative, don't give people the information. They use it as a test and they say, look, there you go.
That's me.
They failed, just like you knew they would. And you know why? Because you're a piece of shit. They don't love you. You're not good enough. That's why. Yeah. And so what I said to this girl was like, I tell you what, feel free to tell me where to go because I'm not your mum and I'm not an expert. But here's what I think. Why don't you go back to your friends and say, well, you bastards, since you're not taking me for a birthday drink, why don't we all go out for dinner next week to celebrate my belated birthday? And she said they all laughed their asses off, apologized profusely. She felt a million times better and they had a lovely time.
That is a brave thing to do.
Yeah, well, it's like give yourself and the people in your life a break. Like give your brain a break from trying to sabotage you and trying to make you hate yourself and tell you that the world hates you too. That isn't me saying that anybody is being manipulative. What I'm talking about is the impact, the battle scars of a lifetime of unidentified ADHD. We get the answers, whether that's a medical diagnosis, self-diagnosis is valid, and it has to be in a system that's so broken. You could be waiting, the rest of your life or up to 8 years for ADHD assessment. Yeah. Self-diagnosis has to be valid, but whatever those answers are, when you find them out, you don't just go, clean slate. I don't hate myself anymore. I'm not an unreliable, lazy piece of shit that can't hold down a job and upsets everybody that nobody wants around. It takes work, especially with RSD, what I call those really shit daydreams. Sometimes keeping on top of those isn't just weekly, it's daily, it's hourly work. Our ADHD symptoms are exacerbated by our fluctuating hormones. Our symptoms can change not just throughout our lifetimes, but throughout our cycles. We could come up with new problems or different ways of thinking about things. And you've got grief, life circumstances, moving house, work stress, all of these things. It's like, yes, you can work to get better. But if you're somebody like me that once a month your ADHD medication just doesn't work for a week, if you even are medicated, let's just say you're not, and you have different coping strategies, body doubling, accountability, whatever it is that you use to help you on the daily, if you're in that week where your ADHD is on fire because of your hormones, you're going into perimenopause, menopause, whatever it is, postpartum, whatever, like, they're not going to work. And in those moments,
everything's
to pot and you're back to square one.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's really, really difficult. But, you know, I think it is a case of checking, is it real? Is it real? Now, the problem is...
does everybody in this situation actually hate me?
Is there a possibility that I might have got this wrong? Now, the bit where it gets tricky is there evidence? Because that's when your brain will say, yeah, there is evidence. They forgot my fucking birthday. Right? But, did you tell them? Did you remind them? Can you remember when their birthday is? Do they have something else going on in their life? Is there...
I think it's also very relevant that there are some people who are not thoughtful.
And don't give a shit about birthdays.
And don't give a shit.
Right?
And
so
honestly,
they don't care that you haven't remembered. They don't remember anybody, so they don't give a shit.
There are also just times where people are just not kind and they are not thoughtful and they are not... And that has some... listen, I'm telling you what I tell myself. It has nothing to do with me.
Yeah. Projection.
Right. It has nothing to do... Because I am really stuck in a cloud of the way that I perceive other people to perceive me.
Yes.
And that is not about being liked or disliked. And I'm not very good at articulating it.
No, it's the fear of being perceived in general.
Well, it's the fear of being perceived and not knowing how I'm perceived.
Yes.
It's fine.
It's uncontrollable, unknowable.
Yeah.
And anybody else's projection or really shit daydreams or one action or a perception of an action can change that perception entirely.
And the negative experiences, unfortunately. So, like, I have this running joke that I want, you know, like a burn book in Mean Girls, like I want my own burn book so badly.
Against yourself?
Against myself. Because if you're like, Nicole, here's all these things that I like myself. If you tell me like, oh, I think you're really clever, I'd be like, thank you. I agree. I also think I'm clever. Like, thank you for affirming. I believe that. What I want to know is the burn book side of it, because I'm like, well, I don't know. Yeah. Am I problematic? Do I say things that I think are funny and actually like hurts someone's feelings and no one so like I am desperate for this information.
But here's the thing, right? I've had a lot of that information about myself.
Have too.
And actually, you still have to be you because you can't keep everybody happy. That's the thing about perception, right? Is that there are people that could listen to this episode and say, that was so fucking brilliant. That was so helpful. I feel really validated. I think those two girls are really interesting. And someone's going to say,
what a couple of twats.
That pair of dickheads. They're so annoying. Who do they think they are? Stupid voices, stupid accents. Fuck off. That's honestly what can and will happen. So how would we then fit into a mold that every single person is not going to have a criticism?
Well, so for me, it's, and this is where it comes into being liked and disliked. So the example I would give is like, I talk an extraordinary amount. It's out of control, and I can't.
We're actually very pared down right now.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep it real.
If we're keeping it real, it'll be a lot faster.
So I talk. It's so overwhelming for even me to experience a lot of the time. And here's the two examples. If someone's like, Nicole talks a lot and I find that to be very annoying, I'd be like, well, piss off. I can't do anything about it. No. And say la vie. I really do not care. I don't like it either. And there's nothing I can do about it. If I could, I would have done it 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But the part about the perception that freaks me out is if someone's like, gosh, Nicole talks a lot because she's so obsessed with herself and doesn't, and I'm like, oh, no, sorry, no, that's actually not.
I'm filling the gap because I think it's uncomfortable to be silent.
Whatever
I have 60,000 thoughts, and if they don't come out, then I'm going to lose them.
All of these things. So like that's where I start to get a little freaked out. So the thing is, Nicole talking a lot. If you don't like it because it's annoying, I don't care. It's also annoying to me. I can't change it. If you don't like me for it, it does not bother me.
Yeah.
But if you don't like me for it because you perceive me talking a lot to have this other meaning.
An arrogant undertone.
And I don't know that.
Loves the sound of their voice.
Correct.
It's a really
That's
funny
where
thing.
I like loop and loop and loop and loop.
Having a conversation with one of the charity facilitators who is, again, like us. She's one of the talks too much, fills the gap, doesn't realise, then zones out, time blindness, comes back round, been dominating a conversation for half an hour without even realising. I was saying it's really interesting. There is one particular ADHD content creator who really pushes the point of sometimes the best ideas come out of the quietest person in the room, and nobody should dominate a conversation. You should try and encourage the quieter people to speak. And that is absolutely true. There should be space for feedback in different forms where people are more comfortable to express themselves, and people like you and I literally rambling because we're nervous and trying to fill the gap because nobody else is talking. The bit where it falls down is that what you're not seeing is that the way that we talk and the way that we communicate, the way that we express ourselves with our hands, with eye gestures, with whatever, that some people say is either aggressive, attention seeking, and too much.
Abrasive. I've gotten that a lot.
That is how ADHD presents in us. So to then be like, they're too much, they're talking too much, they're full of themselves, they think they've got so much to say, they're overpowering, overbearing, you know, all of that stuff. That is actually ableist, because this is how ADHD presents in us.
Yeah, that's true, Laura.
You know, and I can't believe 3 years down the line and 2 years on from the Too Much tour, I still get that kind of thing. You know, I understand that some people have misophonia and my voice is really annoying. I put a really silly sound when I was doing the Alien Nation tour. I put a silly sound on the actual podcast about joining the community, and it was an alien spaceship coming down, and someone was like, "This is not suitable for the ADHD community." I was like, "What do you mean? Like misophonia? That's a really offensive sound." I was like, "Fuck." I didn't even think of that, because I'm not saying that I am for everybody. All I've done in this space is document my experiences. I missed something. I missed a piece of information.
Also, even if
and the perception is that I did that on purpose, or that I'm a bitch for doing that. And it's like, no, I just didn't think it through, and I missed a step, as I often do with how the condition presents in me.
But
do you know
to
what I
your
mean?
point about everything presents differently in everybody, with misophonia, that sound could really mess with somebody, and the next person it not be the sound that so even if you were being sensitive to that specific part, you still couldn't, like, I don't know why, but if my husband chews, I'm gonna kill everybody. We've spent a lot of time together. I don't even know what it sounds like when you eat food. Maybe you don't chew a lot. Craig and I have almost got divorced over it so often. I mean, really, it gets pretty bad in that house.
He gets annoyed about how I eat crisps.
And I've never thought once about the way that you eat.
What the fuck am I going to do? Just put them in my mouth and
No, I give him a look. I give him
a fucking crisp. I'm going to crunch it.
He'll be eating. We're sat like this and he's eating his dinner. I'll put one finger like this. Because I don't want to sit, and I'll put my hair to the other side. Because if I say something, he'll kick. So I'm like, just slowly. So what I mean is, I would not say I have this particular condition, but there are the sound of ironing when he ironed. Maybe it's just him. Just kidding. But like, there are certain sounds that really freak me out and make me feel like I want to gag, and oh God, creeps me out. But that alien one was not one of them. Yeah. So so what I mean is even if you are as sensitive as you can be in every capacity, different things present differently in everybody. If you put ironing on it, I'm going to gag. Yeah. The sound, just the thought is freaking me out. Yeah, I know. So anyway,
I'm trying to think of a sound that I can't bear. I don't like it when people yawn and talk, but that's also visual. Because I'm hearing impaired and I have auditory processing disorder. So quite a lot of my communication is lip reading, and I don't realise how much. Yeah. So if you're going to just fucking yawn and then talk to me. Yeah? Yes.
Yeah. So it is a hard, but that's but I would like to argue on air, your work is well documented enough that if you may have a misstep, it's not like do you know what? I've thought about this, and big F you to this condition or this thing. It's just a mistake.
Well, you would hope so. I'm
just throwing that out there.
But do you know what?
Into the world.
I think that's really, really interesting. But actually, let's backtrack. So how do we learn? We learn through making mistakes. And I would say now, especially somebody who has recently lost their mother, sorry to get the violins out, but it does literally sit over me at all times. I'm hoping at some point it will ease off a little bit. But, you realise as parents, they want to tell you, do well at school, don't make the same mistakes I did. And wouldn't that be wonderful? We can even see it in situations with friends. If they're in a relationship and you're like, he's not right for you, or they're not right for you. I've seen this before. Please try and protect yourself. That's not how the world works. You don't just get to learn from somebody else's mistakes. Yeah. You can try and take advice, but you still have to learn for yourself. You have to learn for yourself. Now, I know when I started out doing this podcast, my main aim was to start a campaign. And I still haven't done the campaign that I wanted to do 3 years later, but a lot of other things has come from it. On the Too Much Story, I talked about Amika George's How to Be an Activist book. Right. I still made all of the mistakes. I tried so hard not to fall into the pitfalls of it. No, that's not how it works. Alex from ADHD Chatter, he said, he started 100 businesses or 50 businesses, whatever it is, and 48 of them failed. Yeah. You will only learn through making mistakes. And I know that now. So I'm going into now this, if you haven't listened to this podcast before, the work of this podcast, the community that support it, and the live events led to creating a charity called ADHDAF Plus. I am the founder of it, but I'm currently trying to figure out what my job role is because imposter syndrome will not let me call myself a CEO because I'm a barmaid. So whatever the hell I am, I know that I'm going to make loads of mistakes. I know I will. I'm okay with it. Like, I do the most ADHD things to eradicate the shame, and you would expect in a space where all I talk about is my raging ADHD. I really am ADHD AF. I'm severe combined type. It impacts every aspect of my life to the point that I can't drive, to the point this is the longest job I've ever had. Like, it really, really negatively impacts my life every second of every day. You would think people would cut me some slack and give me a bit of a break. But as we both know, that has never been the case. It's really not. And on top of that, now as a charity, I've also witnessed from another aspect that people can be very skeptical of charities, or, really look at them like you've got a dodgy game plan. Yes. Yeah, okay. And so actually, I'm being perceived all the time, and it's so interesting. You really have to prove yourself. Yes. You have to prove yourself innocent. What's it? Innocent before proving guilty? You are suspected of being guilty, and you have to now prove your innocence in that same way. It's really interesting. When we started, so we've got 5 peer support groups, and there's more coming. So at the moment, there are free ADHD adult support groups for ADHD adults of marginalised genders, wherever you are at in your ADHD discovery or diagnosis. There is no medical diagnosis necessary. No. If you're just interested, if you think you've got it, you can come along, right? And we've got those in Aberdeen, Edinburgh, London, Manchester, and Birmingham. And somebody absolutely came for me on social media. And so perception is, and people, they come down hard on you. And that is obviously an experience that person has had time and time again, that they're at their last fuse with it. And they were and they just found it, bang, down on my head. And that's what's quite difficult for me at the moment. Again, tiny violins, is that my capacity is not at your cup is already overflowing. So now I have to kind of try and put boundaries and systems in place to best support myself, because every other day I'm really horribly depressed and griefy. And a message like that, I don't want anybody to worry. I have got a lot of support around me. And we have a board of trustees that I'm not on. The charity is in safe hands, but the bits that I'm doing, I have to kind of safeguard myself a bit in it, because, I'm just doing my best. It is really, really interesting and frustrating, because really all that would take is like a side note. Hey, have you thought about this? Yes. I think this venue might be better. Yeah. Let me give you a hand. Like, it's always a perception of like, there's something untoward, or and I tell you now, I missteps all the time. You say I've got back to everybody who's wished me a happy birthday. I do it instantly. I know. Because if I don't, it will be gone. I know. And then the perception is that I'm an ungrateful bitch. And that you don't care. So I have to get straight back on it. I'd say the only positive, apart from the fact that she isn't suffering, that has come from my mum dying, is that finally, even 3 years on from figuring out that what this thing is that makes my life so difficult on the daily, I've finally found a different level of self-compassion. And that is, I know that I'm doing my best. I've always been doing my best in every single thing that I've done. I often get it wrong. I often miss a step. And some days my best looks different to other days, because that's how ADHD works. I know now, really know now, that I am giving everything my best shot. So the new mantra that just fell into me out of nowhere was, well, I've done my best and that's enough. Not in Barbie terms, I am enough, but like, it has to be a fucking enough.
It
has to be, because it's all I got, you know?
You can't do more than what you have. And also that's a very fluctuating thing.
Yeah.
I said to Laura, we were talking about this yesterday, every year, my birthday, I have my own New Year resolution, and my birthday's in November. So the year is winding down anyway. And I've done this for a decade. Unfortunately, I don't write them down or any of the progress from it, because that would be incredible. And I didn't do it. So, well. But this year, my New Year resolution was to not beg to be loved. And so I said that to her. I was like, well, what is yours? And she was like, immediately, this is your one.
Yeah.
Because
I'd literally thought of it just a couple of days before. It was just like, I was worrying about this, and maybe I should do this, and maybe, you know, because everything that I've done, I can kind of pimp myself out to the press. I'll go, right, I'll write to these newspapers, and I'll try and get on this radio station. I'll try and get on this podcast, and I can do it. And it's just been like, I don't have the capacity. I don't have the capacity to do it. So I'm going to promote. We're going to start small. We're going to hone exactly what we've got. We're going to, you know, promote it very organically, because actually that's what I have the capacity to do. And that has to be enough. It has to be enough, because you could get me on BBC Scotland. I mean, I wouldn't freeze, but I would probably be masking my tits off, and it might take a lot, you know, away from me as a result. So I've just had to tread very, very carefully, and that has to be okay.
It has to, because there's no other option.
No.
And also, I said to you yesterday that there is none of this if you're not there.
Yeah.
Like, I know the charity is its own entity, but you are still the center, the middle of it all, of the tornado. So if you are not able to create, to produce, to give of any capacity, then all of this stops. So you are currently giving 100%, but that is going to look different than what 100% was a year ago.
Yes. Oh, I was going to say 100%.
100, and what it'll look in a week, like, grief or not, that kind of thing fluctuates. But obviously right now you are in a period where so much else is taking up of your time, your energy, your mental capacity, your emotional capacity. Yeah. Not also moving, also all of these things. So you are still giving 100%.
Yes.
It's just a different version of what 100% is.
And that's it. It's getting off your case, because there's things like, so the big ADHD fundraiser, Laura a year ago would literally be on it. I would have made 1 million clips, 1 million posters. I would have done a weekly episodes plus bonuses plus whatever. And Laura this year can't do it. No. And so I have to, like, Darren's fine. I have to not feel guilty about it, because I am doing my best. Yes. And that has to be enough. Yeah.
And then there's also your own perception of yourself, of what is your best and what is your greatest.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to come back to that and talk about positive perceptions, because it doesn't always have to be, I'm sure, I'll give you a second to think about it, but I've had a lot of people say things to me of how they perceive me, and I'm working really hard on not brushing them off. I've had the same job for a few years now, but I work remotely, and so I don't have a lot of, like, face-to-face time with my colleagues. Mm-hmm. So sometimes they'll say stuff to me that's really nice. I mean, I'll die in this job. I've never had a job in my life. And I'm like, what? Like, we had a training like 1.5 years ago. It's like an unconscious bias EDI type training. And I don't really remember what the context was, but I think we were talking about something about confidence, whatever. I don't know what I said, but my colleague turned out and he was like, what are you not confident about?
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I know I don't know you that well, but I just can't imagine you ever, like, second guessing yourself or being nervous. And I was like the joke was like, I'm just really loud, which is true. I am really loud and I talk a lot. Yeah. But I was like, I don't really know this man all that well. He was pretty new to the company. We only interact mostly over email, really. Mm. And so for him to have this perception of me, he's like, gosh, I'm like, oh, okay.
I think
there is another side of it.
Yeah, I think confidence is such an interesting one. That was one I got called a lot when we first went on tour. It's like, Laura's confident and she stands there and she speaks. I'm just
You're like gagging. You're like,
do you know that this is just fueled by rage?
Yeah.
There is just a sensitivity. I need to say these fucking words, hear me. Like, that's all there was. And then feeling uncomfortable in making people sad, so having to bring in an entertainment element to try and be like, so I'm really angry. Sorry though, let's sing Dolly Parton.
For me, a big part of confidence, I would say overall I'm a confident person in a lot of ways, which is then when I'm not confident, I can understand how that would be so confusing if you know me in like the way that I'm confident in the way that I look. So I will dress in a way that's like sparkly. All right.
Eye-catching.
Teasing. What can I say, you know? So I'll just dress how I want to dress, or I'll wear certain makeup, or I used to have blue hair, all these things that are physically attention catching that I really don't care. But there's a lot of things that I'm not. But like one of the parts that I try to explain to people, a lot of things that I have seemed confident in is because I don't really know any better.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times I will say things off the cuff that people are like, wow.
Yeah.
Look at her. She doesn't care what anybody thinks. She'll speak her mind. She'll say what everyone's afraid to say.
No, it just fell out of my face.
No, it's not even like that. It's like I didn't know. So I'm really working on... So then I talk a lot in therapy is like, I really miss when I didn't know any better because it's embarrassing after the fact, really embarrassing a lot of the time. But in the moment, I didn't know that it was a faux pas or I didn't know.
Yes.
And now I've eaten from the tree of good and evil or now, and now I know stuff. So I can't really, because now I'm like, oh gosh, was that one of those times that I did that thing where I said this? The first memory that comes to my head is when I first went to uni. It's really different in America, the system. But I didn't want to go to uni and my parents wanted me to go and they sort of did the process for me and I just went along with it is the very short version. So I went to this uni that I really wasn't well suited for and I ended up leaving. And so I was in some sort of a small group with freshers where they make everybody, get to know each other, something. And they went around and was like, why are you here? Like, what drew you here? And they had a really good nursing program. So a lot of people are like, well, I want to be a nurse. And, my older sibling went here or whatever, right? All these different reasons. And I was like, I applied to a different school that I really wanted to go to, and I didn't get in there, and that really sucked. And my parents wanted me to go here, so I guess I'm here. And my roommate, who shared dorms, I remember her giving me a look. And I remember recognizing the look, but not really knowing what it was for. So her
perception is like, oh, she thinks she's too good to be here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm just an asshole.
Yeah.
So I remember her looking at me and being like, Nicole, what is wrong? Why would you say that out loud? Like inside thought, babe.
Yeah.
And it just didn't even, I was also 17. So I give myself a lot of, it's silly. Yeah, silly.
No, but it's a good example.
I think about it and I'm like, I didn't get into my first choice. And that really sucked. And now I'm here. It was very much like that. So, and that tone of voice and this body language, because I was disappointed. And it did not occur to me that this is a school
somebody else's first choice.
Dream.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think about, and I don't know if she pulled me aside later or it just clicked with me eventually, but it was like that kind of thing where where I would say something and you'd be like, Jesus, she's not worried that anybody's gonna. And I literally did not know any better.
Yeah.
And then once I started to know better, I was like, oh my God. Somewhere, someone is telling a story about the time this girl said that it sucked that she had to go to this uni instead of this uni. And so I started to get really freaked out about all of the times that I've done this sort of thing. And people are thinking, that's why the perception thing makes me crazy.
But it's a minefield, right? It's an absolute
minefield. You can't win. You literally can't win. So this morning,
we were talking about how you needed to email somebody. You needed a piece of information from somebody.
Oh, yeah.
You wanted them to tell you the available dates that they had.
Yes.
They came back to you and said, can you tell me when you want to book this thing? And you were frustrated. Which then I piped up, and I'm always on your side, but just because this is the specific problem that one of the many specific problems that I'm dealing with very full on at the moment with this lack of capacity. is that I'm not saying that I need to be wrapped up in cotton wool and have my hand held and walk through everything, but I do need people to be very kind and very concise. That is what I have the capacity
Short and
for.
sweet.
Short and sweet. A lot of people email me. I love to hear from you. A lot of people message me on social media, on all platforms, all times of the day. And what I need is for people to just tell me what they want, because that is all I have the capacity for.
Yeah.
So I had a person email me and they just listed their accomplishments.
What are you supposed to do with that?
I just said, congratulations, that all sounds really incredible. Would you like to be on the podcast, or would you like to volunteer to help the charity?
Or is it just an FYI?
Tell me the point.
What is this? Yeah.
What's the point? What do you need? Because I don't have the capacity. I don't trust myself to read between the lines because I'm not firing at my best.
Even then,
and
it's not our best.
I just need you to give me a hand. What am I missing? What do you need? And if I can't do it, please don't hate me, because I'm really doing my best.
Yeah. Short and... You know what else? There was something you said that I forgot that I just remembered when you talked about making mistakes. Sorry, left turn, but still on topic.
No.
I think it is very brave to willingly allow yourself to make mistakes. And that is something that I'm not very good at, that I'm actively working on allowing myself, because it feels like you're walking into a fire. And so when you talked about, because you were saying how ADHD chatter was like, oh, I had to do like 40 businesses to one stuff. And you're like, you know that you're going to make mistakes with the charity, but you're going to do it anyway. Already have, you know? But so to know that you're going in, because I think for so many of us, ADHD or not, I think it's a pretty universal experience. You know, this fear, not even like fear of failure, but fear of unknown, fear of what you're even walking into, to know that you are walking into something where you haven't got all your ducks in a row and you haven't. Well, no, I've
never done before. Will get things wrong and will be judged through the eye of a friggin' needle.
And doing it anyway, I think is really a brave, because people like, I think people use the word brave. You know, who am I to tell people what to say? But I know you've been called brave in a lot of ways, and I've been called brave in a lot of ways. Yeah. And I'm just like, babe, I'm just yapping.
I'm just furious.
Right. But this is brave, Laura. This is like brave. So someone be like, wow, Laura, you're so brave to stand on a stage and tell this story. And you're like, what? I'm just yapping.
Yeah.
I just have a microphone on. What is, because to them it might be, but to you it's very normal.
Yeah.
Which is another really good point that my therapist will bring up to me, that like the things that you are skilled in and the things that you have as a strength, we discount our own strengths because they seem very normal.
Yeah, I'll go completely.
So I'm often, I'm often complimented on, not that I speak so much, but that I'm able to articulate myself in a way, or all of these. And I'm like, I'm literally just talking.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
But not everybody can do that. So I discount that as a skill, as a thing. So I think when it comes to being brave for standing up on a stage, you're like, ugh. But this is a brave thing, because you don't have this.
And the thing is, I am so envious of everyone else that can drive, that can manage a bank account, that has a CV that says things that are actually linked in some way and have some kind of linear, you know? I'm so jealous of all of those things that, like, that's interesting, actually. I hadn't really thought of it that way, but the words that were about to pour out was, I'm so jealous of all of those things that it's sort of, oh, this is horrible, it might make me cry. I never even said this. I'm so jealous of all of those things that it doesn't matter what I do, I'm always going to feel like a piece of shit. But in comparison, because it's just like, I can't manage really basic things. So I think that's the way I see it. Sorry, that went far too deep. But like, if I'm going to drown in RSD and struggle like mad and probably be a stressed mess, bawling my eyes out and broke, if I was working at a supermarket or working in a pub, then I might as well use my time well, because people are dying and suffering on waiting lists that they might not even get to, and they're lucky to be on, and I'm lucky to be here. So if I'm going to suffer the way that I am going to suffer for the rest of my life, I might as well make my life fucking worth it. And that's why I do what I do.
I want you to read this. What does this say?
Comparison is the thief of joy. I know.
Because that is what
I don't even know where that came from. I've never
but
said
that
that
is
out loud
obviously
before.
deep inside of you. And so that is, I think, a very interesting point that you just made.
Because I've known before that it was
comparison-
never enough. Like, it was never enough shows or enough podcast episodes or enough numbers
because
or whatever.
it's in
But I
comparison to
always
what?
thought-
Somebody who's a CFO?
Or
Somebody who went to this prestigious uni?
Yeah, or just that I just thought that part of that was low self-worth. The major drive was how needed the awareness is and how much help people need, but also my terrible, my lack of ability with numbers. I was just like, well, these numbers on the screen don't mean anything to me because I don't fucking understand numbers. I don't know if that says 3,000, 30 million, 300,000. I can't quantify it.
I can read numbers and they still don't mean anything most of the time.
Dyscalculia and dyspraxia and all the rest of it, that I can't, those numbers don't mean anything. But actually, you know, when I sit around and people talk about, you know, their taxes or their car insurance or their all of these really fucking normal things, and I'm sat there like, oh yeah, that, yeah, council tax and all the things that I sort out, absolutely. You know, it does always make me feel really inferior. So I just feel like what I'm doing is meeting a desperate need to use the rest of my life that I'm lucky to have to help
make
the
it
people.
worthwhile.
Yeah. Whereas I know that I'm always going to be really inept in every other situation.
But then I want to challenge you to go back to what you were just saying about that your best is enough.
Yes.
Because actually that feeling that you just described is counterintuitive.
Oh God, completely. And literally my best has to be enough, which hit me like 3 days ago, at best 4 days ago, is the first time I've ever thought that. And so that is why it's been a really, really nice thing to turn 42 in horrible circumstances, to actually go, oh no, I've come really far. I have actually got something to come into this year with, to go, actually, that's a big deal. Because all of those, when we were talking in the beginning about that RSD and intrusive thoughts and negative bias about ourselves and our surroundings, is that evidence. And to actually now sit there and go, no, I'm not fucking doing that this time. I know I've done enough. Is huge.
And that is
really
also a lot of growth and maturity.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so mature.
Well, like, you know, I think this is not a tattoo that I have, but was going to be, instead of the compare. So if you're listening, I have a tattoo that says comparison is a thief of joy. So when Laura said that, I like pulled down my shirt and I was like, read this.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I put it on my shoulder, which was silly because I don't see it. But there's, if I wasn't going to get that, I was going to get one that says it takes courage to grow up and become the person that you truly are, which is I'll get that one eventually. Because it is a very brave and courageous thing to grow into yourself and not the person that you are. You feel like you should be.
Yes.
What you should do, what you are expected to do. It is again an act of defiance. It is so courageous to just exist in the way that you are.
Yes.
And it is very hard because you think that you should be somebody else, or you look at what other people are doing and you're like, okay, well, I'm not doing it like that. Obviously, they've got it right and I've got it wrong. There's no universe where my way was the smart, clever way of doing things and they're all the dummies, because that's just what it be.
And you know, as well, it is about standards. You know, when all of the other ADHD podcasts came along, that now is the standard expected level. So, you know, studio mics, clips edited, all the reels, all the everything, all the reach, you know, in the world. That was really, really hard to take in the beginning. And then I realized, like, this is literal madness. It was hard enough carrying on and doing this on my own. I'm now comparing myself to podcasts with massive budgets, teams of 5 to 10 people, lighting, editing, social media, all of this stuff. And it's just me. And for a good fucking while there, I really gave it my best shot to do all of those things as just one person. It's just like, this is ridiculous. I do my bit. And that has to be enough.
It has to be enough because there's no other option. But you can, if you can allow yourself to step back, I know that you can see the impact. It's sometimes hard to, you know, if you're very zoomed in to all the tiny, minute details, it is very hard, but if you allow yourself to step back, you can see.
Oh, I know. I can see the impact, especially not just stepping back, because as I said, the numbers and the whatever and everything else, it doesn't filter in, but it's more when I look at individuals and I can see that my work has directly impacted an individual.
Yeah.
You know, for example, I know she won't mind. I will double check though. Like Ruth is co-facilitating the London ADHDAF charity support group. I'm going to say again one more time, the charity is separate to the podcast. It's just I can use this space to promote the events and fundraise for the charity, but they are two separate entities. Ruth was really struggling with addiction, which is a really common co-occurring condition of ADHD. Finding out the answers through the podcast, finding community, body doubling, accountability, self-worth, validation. She literally credits this podcast, the community from it,
the whole
shebang. As saving, not just changing, but saving her life. And she is now empowered through the charity to be facilitating her own support group to pass that on, while she is still
2.5 years later.
2.5 years later, while she is still on a never-ending NHS waiting list. She is self-diagnosed. That means absolutely everything to me in the absolute world. And that is what I have to bring it back to, is individual people, because on a wider scale, I can't
and also you can't know your wider impact. You can't know the wider perception of good or bad, but you can know that there's that story and the next story and the next story and the next story, and read the comments and the DMs and the this and the people who I sent this to my mom. Even on the daily,
you know, there's been times we've talked on here about the body doubling. So there's daily body doubling in the Patreon community at different times of day and different things going on. And as I said, I struggle with hearing. Sometimes, you know, I will come off a call and I'll be like, did I hear that right? Was that auditory processing disorder? Did I just dismiss somebody who's told me something really awful because I thought they said something else? And my RSD goes into overdrive. And so it's like, in every single interaction, in every single email, in every single DM, in every single comment, in every single person you look at in the eyes as you walk past them in the street, every single second of every day, the RSD, it eats away.
Yeah.
And it is a job to manage. And I know so many people that would say that the RSD, those really shit daydreams, is the hardest bit. Because you can have accountability, you can set alarms, you can try and body. That's not to say it cures it. You can have medication,
no, but you can have a life
coaching,
hack,
in any single second of any given day, a little text message, a little word, a little glance, a little whatever would just go boom.
Yeah.
Knock you off your feet.
Yes,
you know,
it's very hard. There is no quirky little life hack for not wondering if the thing that I said is the reason that this person left me on red and said they'd come to my birthday and didn't come.
And then the historical narrative of a lifetime of not knowing, etc.
Of remembering the time I said that thing at uni when I was 17.
Hate you. They all fucking hate you. They all know you're a massive fraud. Never leave the house again. And on that note, no, I'm joking.
We're going to leave the house today. We got dressed.
Our genuine takeaways are: be mindful of your own expectations of yourself and of others.
Yes,
so we're saying,
especially the unspoken expectations.
Exactly. Try to be mindful and really observe the expectations that you are putting on yourself and others.
Don't set yourself a trap.
Don't set yourself or anybody else up in a trap. And we all know that nobody would intentionally do that. But try and be mindful of those historical patterns of behavior and just see if there is space for just easing off on the expectations a little bit.
Yeah.
And if you have expectations, yes, we can say treat other people as you would want to be treated, right? So for example, you could throw somebody a really big birthday, and then the expectation that you have is, I've shown you how I do birthdays, now you do this for me.
I feel very seen by that. That's exactly what I would do.
For somebody like me.
And then it doesn't happen.
I love the bones of Nicole Nadler. I know your birthday's in November. Shall I guess? I think that your birthday is on, don't tell me, I'm going to go with the 2nd, 3rd or 7th of November.
The 4th, right in the middle.
Do you see what I mean?
It's all right.
So this is exactly what we're talking about. I would want to celebrate your birthday. I cannot retain that information.
Yeah.
So what that would require is, and I will obviously put a note in my calendar, I know it's November, right? Is that we make other plans, or you tell me, or we say, I actually rang you. I was in Ibiza on your birthday last year, and I was like, happy birthday!
I was like, I didn't put anything on social media. She was like, did you do it? How did I know? I was like, no, it's fine. I'm in a hot tub in a place in Scotland in a hotel. You're fine. It was just very funny.
But that's it. So let's be, if we as a community, we require reasonable adjustments in society. We're trying to raise awareness, to open doors so that we can be best supported in society and live in a world that works for ADHD adults as well as everybody else. So then let's give each other a break and actually make reasonable adjustments for the people in our lives. Let's walk them through it. Like I'm saying about the email, be kind, be concise. Do you need something from me? Please tell me what it is. Please assume that I'm going to be so wrapped up in my grief or so busy and upset that I can't even read your email properly. Tell me what it is. That's what we need in our personal relationships, is like, yes, we want people to give us the validation and show us the love that we feel we deserve. But sometimes life circumstances, neurodivergence, and the symptoms of time blindness, or any of that business can mean that we actually need to be walked through it. So walk the people in your life through the things that you need. Explain what your expectations are. 2, not just be compassionate and supportive of the people in your life, but also to hack your own really shit daydreams. Let's not look for the negativity to go, see, they fucking hate you.
Because also
let's hack that by telling people what we actually
there's
fucking
also
hate.
an addiction to the negativity.
Yes.
It's a scientific, the
Negativity
dopamine,
bias.
It's delicious. I just want to sit in it all day sometimes because it feels so good but it doesn't. As soon as you come out of that cloud, there is so much destruction behind you. Yeah. Like in the moment, it's consuming.
Some people do get their dopamine from confrontation.
Oh, not me. Never mind. I hate that. The negativity of like everybody hates me, and this blanket of rejection that you can shroud yourself in.
Because we have to understand that we have ADHD, likely people in our family have ADHD, likely people in our close friendships, relationships in any form also have it. So it's not just you with the ADHD show. So we have to lead by example and say, okay, this person is going to forget things or misunderstand things. This person is going to be late or forget a date, etc.
And you know what, Laura? There is an expectation in that, which, for example, I did not post anything on social media for my birthday, leading up to my birthday. I didn't want to. So I know that you are very good. If I did not hear from you on the day of my birthday, I would not have been like, Laura,
bitch.
Never. My mom or my dad, they were there when I came out. I have a reasonable expectation that they would, which is a whole other thing we won't even get into. We're already an hour. But so like in this situation,
I did not ask to be born.
No, it's the most non-consensual thing that can happen to you. That's a whole different podcast. I have a whole hour's worth of that material too. But what I'm saying is like, we are very good friends. If I did not hear from you on the day of my birth, of which I didn't invite you to a party because I didn't have one, I didn't do anything leading up to it because I didn't want to, I would not be like, wow, Laura obviously hates me.
And she's right too, because you're a piece of shit.
Right. Like that, honestly, for me, because I don't have, so you kind of need to give a little bit of a leeway of the expectation of the people in your life sometimes too.
Yes, absolutely.
In the opposite way.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's about compassion and expectations for yourself, for others, to best support everybody within it.
Correct.
To best support your mental health and well-being, your personal relationships, their mental health and well-being, and not feeding the really shit daydreams. Yeah. And that's not to say, oh, that tick, 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 you're fucking right. Like, I'll do that this afternoon. As I said, my ADHD is on fire right now. So I'm constantly having to go back and say, is that really true? Why are you thinking about that thing? Did that fucking thing even happen? Or have you just hurt your own feelings by winding yourself up about a hypothetical situation that's never fucking happened?
Every day.
Again. So we've talked about the fringe benefits of grief that I finally got off my own case. She says, whilst drowning in self-loathing, but we'll get there step by step. What I do want to say is that we are going to be back together again in August. So if if you've enjoyed this episode, first of all, if you've enjoyed this episode,
Thanks.
which, God, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for existing. I'm sorry for how insufferable we are.
Sorry that my mom bore me once at a time.
And then she died. For fuck's sake.
The nerve. The nerve.
If you have enjoyed this episode, please let us know. Hit the comments, write a review, all that business, because it will help other people in this hell of a difficult time for a grieving girl to catch a break with all these amazing podcasts with their studios and their editing and their everything else. Please hit share, hit comment, hit those stars, and please tell us if you would not like to hear about how we did not consent to be fucking born.
I have so many
Please,
thoughts.
can you tell us what we should talk about when we're next together in August?
Yes.
Because we will do more of this, because we talk so much shit, we might as well record it,
Yeah,
right?
and
it
I
might be
thought-
helpful to somebody. We hope at least one bit of the nonsense that we talk has been helpful to you. And if you found it helpful, let us know what you found helpful. And any of your own grief hacks,
Thoughts and feelings.
RSD hacks, anything like that, let us know. And I'd also like to say two more things. I know this is going to be really long, but I've got
It was
two
never
more
not
things.
going to be
It's never
really
going to
long.
not be long. I've actually forgotten what one of those
Start with the
is.
one and get to the one.
Gosh, I haven't done that the whole episode. One of them is, okay, I got it. So, as I've said, capacity. I'm at capacity, but I don't want you to worry. I'm not on a one-way road to burnout. I have got a lot of support. I'm speaking to a couple of coaches. I have a therapist, and I'm about to start a support group local to me, not as in head one up, as in I'm going to go to a peer support group to get support for grief, and it's by the Good Grief Charity, and it's down the road. So I'm going to go and I'm going to do all of that, so please don't worry. I'm not just escaping my feelings by working harder. I do know that I need to be all right to be able to do my job, and now more than ever my job actually directly impacts people in real life, so it's really important that I'm well, so I don't want you to worry about that. But with that said, I don't have the capacity to go as full on as I would have done this time last year with promotion. So I'd really appreciate any support you can give to the charity support groups in sharing them. It doesn't matter if there isn't one local to you. That's how social media works. If you comment on something, if you share it, like, you don't know who's in people's extended networks. Your friend from down the road might have a best mate in Manchester. You know, that this is how it works. So if you could help me in any way like that, it'd be greatly appreciated. If you are in Aberdeen, Edinburgh, London, Birmingham, or Manchester, if you go on to the ADHDAF Plus charity website, to the R Groups page, there'll be a link in the blurb of this episode, you can now register interest at those support groups. You don't have to RSVP. These are free. There's no admin. All the shit that I can't deal with, I've channeled into it. So nobody needs to RSVP. And now nobody even needs to remember the date or the time, because if all you've got to do is click that register interest link in your chosen group, and you will get email reminders. It's no big fancy form.
The dream.
It's nothing. You literally just write your email address in there and you will receive email reminders, which I hope will be helpful to help you get there and remember that date and time. I've finally got out the first newsletter for the charity. That went out last week, and it's gone out as a newsletter to those that signed up for the newsletter, which you can do on the bottom of the charity website. But it's also gone up as a blog, because I realised that actually that's an extra step, and some people would like to know the information and might not get that far, like myself. I wouldn't sign up for the newsletter. So the blog, all of the information is there on the website. We now have an option where you can apply to not just facilitate a group in your local area if you don't have one already local to you. You can also apply to be an ambassador. And that doesn't mean you have to be some big bloody influencer with 50 pasquillion followers. You can have 5 followers. I don't care. If we help one person with this charity, that's the job done. So if you have got 5 minutes or 5 hours to spare that you could volunteer to help me with anything, with admin, stick a poster up, anything that you can help with. Yeah, there's a million different ways. You're a photographer, videographer, all sorts of ways that you could help this charity, because our charity is about connecting and empowering ADHD adults of marginalised genders. That goes for the facilitators, that goes for volunteers. Your unique skill set, your passion, the time that you have. If you would like to volunteer your time, time, be an ambassador, start a group, anything.
Or just attend a group.
Or just attend a group. You can find out all of that information in the blurb of this episode. You can also get involved in the Big ADHD Fundraiser. There is an episode all about the Big ADHD Fundraiser, which is cycling through Scotland, England, and Wales, where we're in the process of setting up peer support groups, and they're doing it in leopard print in honour of our Leopard Print Army, which is the name of the Patreon peer support community and all the listeners of ADHDAF Podcast, because we are the hands in leopard print. But I have one more thing to say. What is the most ADHD thing you've done this week?
Never drink, and I've been drinking 3 whole drinks, and it's been crazy.
3 drinks. No, I would say not even 3 drinks. I would say 2 drinks, because you didn't finish the second 2. And there is no judgment here. I just don't want whoever it is who's listening to say how disgusting it is that ADHD and alcohol, and I'm setting a bad example. She had 2 drinks, and there were a lot.
Oh, babes, I had one. I'll tell you what I had. I had 1 cider, I had a margarita I didn't finish, and a cocktail I didn't finish, and I was fleeing.
Because ADHD symptoms can be exacerbated by alcohol, and I cover it at great length throughout this podcast because my dad is a recovering alcoholic. So it's a topic I care very much about. So please don't get it twisted. We're not advocating alcohol.
Anyway, I had 2.5 drinks and I was fleeing through London. Laura was having a great time observing. The point of that is that I woke up this morning like decrepit, like a dead corpse.
Been at a rave
I still had glitter. I
10 days.
had glitter everywhere. Like I was like, did I go on a bender? I had 2.5 drinks. Like what happened?
2.5 drinks and a roast dinner.
And a roast dinner. And I was asleep by like 10. Anyway.
You were passed out before 10.
So that was like the joke of it. It's like I hardly drank. I had a roast dinner. I went to bed before the sun set. So Laura's like, oh, I have these really nice face masks, like these proper Korean face masks. And I was like, oh yeah, let me get one of those. Let me bring myself back to life. And I put it on and I was like, please, face mask, just euthanize me. I was like, wait a second. I don't think. And Laura's like pissing herself. And I'm like, no, I don't want to be euthanized. I want to be youthful. I want to be and I'm pretty good with words. Vocabulary is a good one for me. And I was like, I don't think that, Princess Bride, where he's like, I don't think that word means what you think it means.
I think you meant what you think. However.
And I said it like dead, like, please, to the gods, euthanize me. But don't I look nice?
And the moral of the story is lay off the booze. The
2.5 drinks a day.
The other most ADHD thing that Nicole has done is re-perpetuated the cycle of putting on an Edinburgh Fringe show, deciding she's never going to do it again, and I'm so excited and proud and so overjoyed that you're doing it again.
I forgot that I was doing it till you said that for a second. Yeah. The show is called Exposure Therapy, and it's all about fears and perception, and it's me exposing myself. Not like that though.
She might.
I might. I might. Oh, Jesus. But it's all about facing your fears. And by your fears, I mean I am facing your fears.
Yes. So anyway, you can follow Nicole at High Heels and Heavy Suitcases and get all the information about that. But please do join Nicole at the Edinburgh ADHDAF Charity.
Yes, please. If you're anywhere near Edinburgh, you can reach out to me directly if you'd like. Or as Laura said, you can sign up on the info thingy. It's really cool. It's really chill. I'm really cool. I'm really chill.
And on that note, please let us know if you've enjoyed this episode. Please share it with your friends and please get in touch about the Chazza. We love you. Thanks so much for listening. Leopard print, all right.